Hey, and a warm welcome to you, Shane. How's it going today?
Great. Thanks for having me, Ange.
Likewise, I'm excited to jump in today's topic around resiliency and growth mindset as a leader. But before we go there, I want to kind of introduce you and then jump into the conversation. So, everyone, Shane Foss is here with me today, who has built himself into the business leader and innovator he is today through more than 20 years of tenure as an executive in the medical industry. He's a veteran of the United States Air Force, where he completed a surgical technologist certificate, and he uses his love of medicine to fuel his venture into the private sector. Placed in notable leadership roles in past as Chief Commercial Officer of ProNerve, the Chief Operating Officer of Employer Direct Healthcare, and partner at Castle Development Group. He'd worked to negotiate complex multi-million dollar contracts, work in device sales management, create business strategies, and optimize P&L before starting his own business, targeting affordable healthcare named Hooray Health. So I'm super excited to dive in with Shane because, between the healthcare industry in the US right now, as well as being a startup business owner, resiliency and growth mindsets as a leader definitely come top of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a prerequisite when you start a business.
Right?
Yeah.
Shane, when we started Intuity Performance, we started a week to the day of the first round of COVID.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a tough road to sled, isn't it?
Honestly, though, like from a growth mindset perspective, backing it up, we could have easily have just kind of been like, all right, let's pack it in. We're a service industry. Nobody really wants, right? But from a growth mindset perspective, we're like, hey, wait a minute. Like the internet is blowing up with online engagements now all across the
Mhm.
world. And so a lot of virtual doors had opened for us actually in the first
Yeah.
year. That was a bit surprising and grateful for, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. No, look, I think, the if you've got a good business plan
Mhm.
and, obviously if you have to do something physically, then it may change in an environment like that. But if you've got a good business plan, you need to sit back and really evaluate what your options are and then start kind of feeling your way into seeing what's going to work. And I think a lot of people during COVID really found out that, boy, you can make money in a lot of different ways and be successful uh, without without the physicality or the being people being together. And but I think but as what we've learned is, as we've gone back, it really is that human interaction is much better in person. And I think, so but look, you gotta adapt and overcome, right?
Absolutely. Yes, I agree. I agree. And Shane, tell me more about your leadership style and how you really come about this thing that we call growth mindset.
Yeah. Well, so I think that I've evolved over the last 20 25 years. And when you're young and you're aggressive, you're sometimes you're you come off as overconfident, but it's really more insecurity because you
Hmm.
don't know. And so I've learned a lot. And I think the biggest thing from my standpoint is, um, I really I really depend on my team, and I let them do their job. And people are going to make mistakes. I want the independence. I want the independent mindset, because
Hmm.
when you have if you have an organization, two different organizations, and you see one where you have somebody that's at the head of it that is dictating every decision, they're really frozen with indecision
Hmm.
because nobody wants to make a decision, and they end up being slow moving. Um, there's a lot of anxiety, and there's a fear of failure.
Hmm.
And I go the opposite route. And I really want people to make mistakes. I want people to make a decision. We push all of that information down. And if you make a mistake, you're not going to get beat up over it, and you're certainly not going to get fired over it. It's more, hey, here's a learning opportunity. And so I really take more the approach of the ask questions. What do you think? what's the plan? What were you thinking during this? And then really coaching through it. And I think,
Mm,
that's there's a positive and a negative to it, right? You can look at it as sometimes you're too hands off, but part of the problem is, when you're talking to like a board of directors, a lot of those guys and women, the people are just so hands on that, you're like, and when to me, I've been in those environments and I hated every second of it because
mm,
I want, you know, I want to succeed and I want to be able to succeed, not on my own, but I want to be able to make decisions and grow and be able to, expand my experiences. And if I'm literally frozen and I can't make decisions, because my boss hasn't given me the approval, I mean, it's heart wrenching, right? I mean,
mm,
it's life sucking. And so I really, that's what I really like. I think that the biggest thing to me is, um, if I left tomorrow, would my organization thrive, not survive, but thrive? And the answer is yes. And so that's really what success looks like to me, because I'm doing my job, right? I mean, I think most leaders um, look at their job as, being the face of the organization, and everybody looks at them like they think that, without me making the decisions, you're dead. And I'm the exact opposite. I mean, I would love to spend more time in Colorado life than doing what I'm doing sometimes. But that's kind of me in a nutshell.
absolutely. And what I'm hearing is there's a lot of golden nuggets in here. And it's not just about the growth mindset as a leader, but what comes as a result of having a growth mindset is you're engaging your team to ensure that they have the resources that they have. And you're embracing learning, you're embracing the challenges, you're making sure that they have autonomy of decisions to a certain extent, of course,
Yeah.
or direction, I should say. And also looking that it's about making impact, not just accomplishing a widget type thing, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want high performers, you got to let them go, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to let them run a little bit. And so I've always done this is I've always hired people that I always thought were better than me, because if I got people better than me working, then, we're working a little more efficiently, right?
Yes.
And so, having a team that has that talent level is I mean, it takes the pressure off you, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it really does.
Mm.
The most pressure I have is really making sure that keeping the harmony in the organization and making sure that there are other things that I'm protecting them from that need, where that they need protecting from, right?
Right. And how do you transfer the growth mindset to your team?
Well, you set goals, right? I think that the the biggest thing is, if you don't know what your goals are, then you know because one person may think that growing by 5% or 10% or is great, but when you're growing by 30-40% and you set that expectation, and then
Mm-hmm.
now that's they have a target, they know what they need to do to get there, and then they plan accordingly. And so setting proper expectations, I think transparency is part of that, right? um, but and growth is really, it's a relative term, because you could be talking about growth professionally, you could be talking about growth within your organization financially, right? How you expand and go into other markets. And so I think for us, it's really about looking at what you know on an individual basis, what their potential is and where they can go from a development standpoint. But on the flip side, when you have metrics that you're holding people to, one of the things that we do is um, we we use a platform that's really good, gives us good structure, and
Mm-hmm.
so people know where their metrics are, and we know what our goals are quarter by quarter, and what we're doing and what our deliverables are. And so there's a lot of accountability there. And so and when it's amazing, because when we call them rocks, but when you
Yeah.
have these, everybody has these rocks and you're achieving them on a quarterly basis. And then you look back at the end of the year, you're like, wow, I was able to grow from here to here
Mm-hmm.
because, we had that structure to go, and it wasn't one person that was doing everything and then a couple of us skating along. It was everybody was equally going up there, and you have visibility in it. And then of course you have candor in the organization, which is
Mm.
what you need.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. And out of curiosity, what was coming up for me was knowing that you have strategy in place. How is it that you ensure that your team members have the right skill sets? And I know I don't mean like the hard skills, but I'm talking about the soft skills, because those are the things that allow organizations to really grow, is
Sure.
teams gelling and trust and all that great stuff. So
Right.
how do you approach that with your team?
So, first of all, we have quarterly, we have monthly, and then we have quarterly activities as a group, as an organization, because we're still, we have 25 employees. And so we get together on a regular basis just to kind of blow off steam, have fun, and talk and interact. Right. So I think that it's much more difficult to be, cold and mean to somebody that, well, their kids' names, their wives' names, or their spouses' names. So that's one of the things. Um, but the other side of it is, I'll give you an example. One of our really high potentials, I meet with her on a monthly basis, and we've gone through multiple books now. And so we were just finishing. We just did the last chapter last week. Finished Good to Great. And
Mm-hmm.
so really talking through and making sure. I mean, because she's not coming out of our meetings. She's not going to be ready on the financial side. She, P&L side, managing that. She's not going to be ready on all these things. But what we've done the whole time is we focused on hiring, development, communication, talking. And so she's talking to your team. And so she's been doing these team meetings and doing, like we did 5 dysfunctions of a team first. And so I had her do that. And the feedback was fantastic. And now we just literally had somebody that left. We were able to promote her up, and now she's got this new role. And I mean, for us, that's a huge win. And so a lot of it is just, us as leaders developing, working with the young, the young up and comers, and making sure that they're thinking about it differently, and that we're challenging them to expand their skill set.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And hearing you talk earlier, Shane, it sounds to me like Hooray Health has its own kind of growth mindset or resiliency approach to healthcare in the US.
Oh
Tell me
yeah.
more about it. I was really intrigued by what you had said earlier.
Yeah. So, so Hooray Health. So we are we're a health product. We are an insurance product that is really focused on the hourly population. So in the United States, unlike Canada, you do not automatically have a national healthcare program. So we focus on the hourly population, which is in our mind the forgotten group. And so we are not major medical. We don't have all of the bells and whistles. I mean, our product starts at $50 a month and goes up to $250 a month. So it's very, very inexpensive on purpose. And so, from a resiliency standpoint, when we started, we got a lot of pushback. A lot of people are like, "Oh, we don't need it. Why would you do that? Oh, we need that," And so, we really pushed ourselves to find our niche. We
Mhm.
really got good at our customer service and our value proposition. We improved the product. We lowered the price. I mean, we did all of these things, and so now we have large national clients. We have, I mean, we just it's a completely different ball game. But during that time, some people are like, "Oh man, you came out of nowhere, overnight success." It's like, yeah, not so much. We lost both of our carriers 4 years ago. We had no carriers to underwrite our product going into busy season, right? We had, we had different issues. We had to let go of our head of sales. We brought in a new head of sales. This year we lost a key member. We lost a key member of our senior leadership team that moved on, got another job, and left a void in our organization right during our busy period, right?
Mhm.
So, what you do is you take that opportunity to, like with this particular issue, we took the opportunity to really sit back as a leadership team, evaluate what we need to do, take the opportunity to reorganize the company and say, okay, now that she's gone, we can do this, this, and this. So let's go ahead and do this. So we invest over here, we do this. And now the organization is, in my opinion, in a really, really good position that started out something that you were like, oh my gosh, this is gonna hurt us this year, to this could be the best thing that could happen to us. So I think, the resiliency aspect of it is you always have to have the mindset that you're gonna figure it out, right? Nothing is impossible.
Yeah, it's all figure outable.
Right, exactly.
Enjoying the fact that you're highlighting that in both instances of quote unquote turmoil, there were opportunities of problem solving. So enjoying that you're identifying that you and the leadership team, you and the company as a whole will take a step back and say, okay, let's take inventory here, let's take stock and see what's working, what's not working, and where do we actually want to take this. So almost that proverbial gap analysis.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing that I've seen a lot with people is they'll make rash decisions immediately, right? They'll go, okay, this person left, so we can put this person in there and we'll just patch it. Well, we actually took 2 weeks before we even met on it. We thought through it. And then we got together as a leadership group. And we said, all right, what do you think? And we literally hashed through everything as a group. Who can we promote? Can we reorganize this? What should we do here? Who should, what are our needs? And we came up with a great solution. And so when we lost our carriers, everybody panicked and it was like, well, wait a second, let's just take a step back. And we ended up getting a carrier that is 10 times better than we had before. We've done all these partnerships, we've done all these things with them now, and we've got such a great relationship, and it's going really well for us and has been going well. And so sometimes things aren't meant to be, and you just gotta you as the leader can't panic, right? You can't run in your office and slam your door and yell at people, and because it's like the flight attendant, right? If the flight attendant is calm during rough air, you're going to be calm. But if they're panicking, you're going to be panic, right? And so I think that's part of it. And resilience starts with the top, right? I mean, because everybody's looking to you. I mean, if you're saying, oh, we're done, we're closing our doors, then everybody's panicking. But if you're just like, hey, this is part of business, and we have an opportunity to look at this differently, and there you go.
Absolutely. There's a quote, as you're speaking, there's a quote that popped up in my mind, and it was from Dyson. So James Dyson, the inventor of Dyson.
Yep.
And he had identified, I'm going to butcher it, but it still resonates, I think. He identified that, to garner success, there was 527 attempts, and only one of them was successful. But each and every time they had gone through reiterations, there was learning opportunities, which is what I'm relating back to what you're saying, Shane, in the sense that, losing your carriers in the health insurance field, that's a substantive issue, 100%. But for you, it was like, okay, well, let's look at this in a different light. And, it worked out for the better for the group.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you have to realize that your first product is not going to be perfect. You're not going to win every deal. You're not going to, and I'm a big golfer. I love pro golf. Those guys, the number one person in the world, Scotty Scheffler, I think won twice this year out of 28 tournaments, right? I mean, the next person, I mean, it's crazy to think about how many times you have to fail to be successful, and you've got to have that resilience. That's why I always love sales, right? Sales has been, it's you trying to convince this person, this organization, whatever, to buy your product, And so if they don't, and they give you feedback, then you got to go back to the drawing board. How do I change it? How do I address it?
Mm,
Right?
absolutely. And Shane, tell me more about when it comes to Hooray Health. How are you setting hourly employees up for success around thinking about health insurance in more of that growth mindset perspective?
Yeah. So we look at things differently. And so if you look at when we built the product, we looked at it through the CDC data, which was basically 90 under the age of 50, 95% of all your medical care is is going to be minor medical, right? I'm going to the doctor for a checkup. I'm going to the doctor because I'm sick. I've got a lab, an x-ray, something like that. The other 5% is major stuff, right? I'm going to an emergency room. I'm having a baby. I'm going in for surgery. But think about that, 95%, 5%. And now when you look at the cost of healthcare today, financially, it is, there's a ton of risk. So what we did was we said, okay, let's focus on the 95% and what can we do there? And so we built our own provider network for a $25 copay, no balance bill. And they can go in for a $25 copay and get everything taken care of that they need to. And, we added technology to it, but what we did was we were protecting them short-term financial protection. So what I mean by that is in the United States, we have 50% of Americans have less than $500 in their bank account. So we know 75% of that population is going to avoid going to get care. Well, that a simple infection in your knee, bronchitis, something can turn into something major. And so what happens is then that major item, then they have to go to the hospital. And guess what? Now they've got 10, 20, $30,000 bill that now they're filing bankruptcy. So our whole goal was to make sure that we improve access to care through meaningful benefits. And so our whole goal is we don't have a deductible. We pay first dollar coverage is what you call it out. And so we want them to be able to go see a doctor and not worry about the financial implications, right? And so from an hourly standpoint, we really spent a lot of time trying to figure out, where are they struggling? And they were struggling because they just couldn't go see a doctor if they were sick, right? Or take their child in if they were sick. And so we learned really the two issues and we addressed them, and that's what we do. And so we don't offer major medical. We don't do any of that. We're really focused in this area, and that's where we do our best work. And so that's how we serve the hourly population.
And when you're talking about minor medical, are those also things like glasses, like vision, chiropractors?
We have that. Yeah, we have that to include. Yeah, absolutely. We include that.
Yeah.
But I think really it's physician visits. We do virtual, we do face-to-face. We've got mental health benefits, which is huge, because there's a lot of people that are financially stressed right now, and it leads to other things. And
yes. And I think the problem that you're looking to solve is for our hourly workers in the US to have immediate access to primary care.
Correct. We need, urgent care or primary care, either or. We want to improve access to healthcare, and that's our whole goal. And so, when you're sick and you avoid going to see a doctor, it prevents you from going to work, prevents, if your children, you can't take your children, it prevents you from going to work because you got to watch your children who are homesick because you can't send them to school. And then, when you look at one of the most common things is accidents that happen. So 12% of all visits over the course of a year are accident related. Well, if my child breaks her arm, that's a $3,000 bill. Well, if I have $500 in my bank account, guess what? I'm not paying it, right? And so it's just a compounding issue on this short-term financial. they're worried about, making their car payment, paying rent. They don't have that luxury of just doling out $3,000. So we're there to really protect them, to make sure that they can go do those things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And so when you're thinking about it in the sense of return on investment for other companies, what I'm hearing is that by protecting your hourly employees, it's actually not just, protecting their bottom line and productivity, but it helps from a mental health perspective and engagement perspective, because those things they don't have to worry about anymore, right?
Yeah,
Like, because that itself can eat away at a parent or
yeah,
even an individual, knowing that they have this thing that they can't deal with.
yeah, absolutely. And so for us, from an employer standpoint, it's great because you've, you know, you have improved access to healthcare for your hourly population. It stabilizes the workforce because they have benefits.
Mm,
We know statistically that over 30% of people that leave an organization are leaving for better benefits.
mm-hmm.
So that eliminates that or reduces that. You've got the other side of it is workers' comp. If I don't have benefits, a lot of people will file. I mean, we know statistically the
Yes.
most worker comp benefits are filed on Monday, right? They hurt themselves on the pitch on Saturday or Sunday. They come in Monday. Oh, I twisted my ankle. I'm hurting. I need to go in. Right. And then as an employer in the United States, you own that employee the rest of their life.
Yes.
And so that, it reduces some risk there as well. So yeah, it's from an employer standpoint, recruiting and retention, you're competing against other people. And if you have an affordable benefit that you can pay 100% for and provide it to this population, that's a huge benefit to them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%. And so when you're thinking about Hooray Health, what is your vision when it comes to growing the business over the next couple of years?
So for us, growing it over the next couple of years, we're really focusing on um, we've got two areas. One, we continue to go down the path where with employers for hourly employees. The other side that we're getting ready to launch is um, access for our product as a supplement to major medical um, in the individual space. So
Mm-hmm.
we just we're in the process of getting it launched now for January 1, where our product will be able to serve a very large population in the United States that has a $6,000 deductible, but so they can't really afford to use their insurance. We call them functionally uninsured. Well, now, our product doesn't cost that much, so they can actually cover that deductible underneath, and it's what we call a non-coordinated gap, to where, for anywhere from, let's say, 60 to $100, now that they've got access to the primary care, they got access to everything else without a deductible, and so it helps. They're covered for that catastrophic, but now they're at least they're getting their major or minor medical stuff taken care of. And so that's, from a growth standpoint, that's where we're headed. And so we're focused on how do we educate, so we've analyzed the market, analyzed the opportunity, and now we're working with our partners to launch the product and market and communicate and educate.
Amazing work. Really enjoying Hooray Health and what it stands for, Shane, in the sense of solving that problem and filling the gap for our hourly workers. How can we reach out to you if we want to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can always reach out at hoorayhealth.com, HOORAY health.com, and reach out. And I'm on LinkedIn if you want to talk. But yeah, we'd love to talk to any of your listeners if they have any questions and help out.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Ange.